This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Hey, what's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and joining me back in the saddle once again, it is Michael J. Facci. And Facci, I have to ask you, have you ever agreed to something under the table and then got paid as handsomely as Gary Trent Jr. did?
Not that handsomely. Wow. I mean, were we disrespecting the man when we said if we can get him on a minimum contract? But who saw that coming? When I saw that contract, I was as puzzled as everybody else, and it quickly morphed into such an overpay that people felt like an investigation needs to happen. That's how much it was an overpay. And the crazy thing was, as much as we were interested in Gary Trent Jr., he wasn't coming off of a great season by any means. So that's what made it even more puzzling.
No, it was wild. I mean, I did the math, and I'm pretty sure it's around like 350% in terms of an increase of pay from what he made last season. And it's like the Bucks don't even really have room for him to play at the shooting guard spot. They just traded for Tyler Hero. They just drafted Braden Burries. They've already got AJ Green on their roster. It just seemed to me like, what are they doing? And honestly, there has been a lot of rumblings out there that there was an agreement to a deal prior to that got him paid this to, hey, if you take the minimum for Milwaukee, we'll pay you once this minimum contract is up. And so I don't know. I just find that to be a little bit bizarre. And it also makes me wonder, were they holding out trying to force Milwaukee to make this deal happen, and that's why he hasn't signed with anybody yet on a minimum deal? Or because of how poorly he played last season, were teams not really excited to maybe add him as much as they probably thought they might be?
I don't know. There clearly had to have been something going on. I just don't know who was going to be offering him more than the minimum. Like,
Yeah.
taxpayer mid-level at or a little over $6 million, maybe. But like, no one was going to offer this contract. And like the Bucks situation that they're in is already a bit of an awkward one. This just made things even more awkward to the fact of having now Miles Turner and Gary Trent Jr. on the books at both being overpaid. Those are going to be some contracts that are hard to move.
Well, the Bucks love to give out bad contracts. I mean, that is just what they are notorious for. So
That and paying coaches.
Yeah,
Love it. Can't get enough of them.
I know. They are one franchise I will never understand with how they handle their business. And I mean, even Bucks fans were just appalled by the deal. Like, it makes no sense. And so I just think that the league has to look into this if they're not. Like, I mean, there's always going to be like cap circumvention stuff. Like, you cannot not look at this after what just went down with Kawhi Leonard and what's being held up right now between the Raptors and the Clippers with this deal.
Wow.
Because
you and I spoke about. We spoke about how it's like, is this investigation over? Like, should this really have happened? Like, I feel like Kawhi, it's interesting because and I know I'm cutting you off here, but like the two teams that he named that he wanted to go to were teams that he was familiar with that were probably maybe a little bit able to look past this and say like, all right, well, if we get him, we'll give him an extension. He was probably trying to get that extension done as quick as possible. And now things are very complicated for both teams.
Yeah, it was kind of like, from what I've heard podcasting-wise and things that people have checked into the league, it sounds like they basically said, yeah, Raptors, you can make this deal, but make it at your own risk. And I don't know. I just think it's really bizarre. And then you hear Brian Windhorst saying, yeah, the Wizards promised Trae Young that, hey, if you don't play this season, we'll give you this new contract with like a 7.5% trade kicker, the full 4-year max that he could get. And I'm thinking to myself, didn't the Pacers get fined?
They did.
You know, however much it was it $10,000, $100,000?
$100,000, which I know in NBA terms might not seem like a lot, but the fact that they cracked the whip at us and maybe not even looking into this for the Wizards is very suspect.
Well, and honestly, like, the player participation policy is 4 stars, and no offense, but like, on paper, Trae Young is a bigger star than Aaron freaking Nesmith, okay? And to find a small market team like the Pacers and then just overlook what the Wizards did, like, I'm not saying the Wizards aren't small market, but the inconsistencies from the league office is the problem. And, me talking about it on a podcast, me writing about it's not going to really move the needle much because who cares? But I just think that if more people would stand up and say things like this and call them out for their bullcrap, hopefully it would be like, hey, we got to hold them to the fire a little bit more because this is ridiculous, Facci. Like, I don't really care. It doesn't really change the results of the draft lottery, but to not fine Washington throughout the entirety of the season for not playing Anthony Davis once they traded for him and then barely playing Trae Young, I mean, that to me screams more hey, we broke the rules more than anybody and didn't get punished for it.
But I couldn't agree more. I mean, obviously, look at the Pacers out in the cold, falling to 5. Like, if the Wizards had to play players maybe won a couple games, maybe things would be a little bit different. Maybe they
100%.
would. I don't want to think about that too much.
We would have had those odds that would have won the first pick.
It'll make me sick. But yeah, I mean, anything could have happened that easily a win, 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins could easily shake things up. So hopefully the league can look into stuff because it was weird when the Wizards were making all of those deals. None of it felt like it was geared towards this year at all. So here we are now. So interesting stuff. The league has quite a few investigations on their hands.
All right, Facci. Well, I know on Thursday there was a little pep in your step with the Pacers bringing Kobe Brown back on a 2-way deal, and I'm just kind of curious if that pep in the step carry you throughout the weekend.
I still got a little bit of it. Honestly, I woke up, took a deep breath, went, oh yeah, Kobe Brown on a 2-way. I mean,
What can Brown do for you?
exactly. I mean, I just feel like right now, is this not one of the strongest 2-way deals we've had in a while? Like, I mentioned it, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, but like this to me feels like when we brought back Jaylen Smith because you felt like, oh, that's not going to happen. His option's been declined. Like he's not going to come back. Someone could give him more money. To bring him back on a 2-way, there's not 1 second that I ever thought that was a reality. That could be a possibility. I thought he played well enough to be able to get himself a standard contract. To me, it's got to be that he wanted to be here and to like see this through and probably was told, hey, you're going to have an opportunity to compete for a standard contract at some point throughout this year, I would believe.
Well, this is his last year of eligibility, right, for a 2-way deal, which is really interesting. Clearly, he liked being here. Clearly, he improved as a player. Like we talk about the 3-point shooting and how it just skyrocketed when he came here and how he really kind of developed. I think that they liked the development they got from him. I think he's just a really good dude. And with all the question marks they have heading into the following season, right, in 27, 28, like it's good to have somebody like this that you will have his bird rights now to by bringing him on a 2-way deal. And they don't have to convert him. I think he can sign with another team if he does get a standard contract offer, but I'm not sure how all that works, so I don't want to sit here and act like I know everything about 2-way players, but I think it's interesting. And like you said, if they were to make a midseason trade or something like that, contracts are kind of prorated for how much you make. So, once the season starts, you're not going to make that full minimum contract for how many years of service you have. It's prorated based on how many days are left in the regular season. So they could wait to sign him until around the trade deadline. Now they got a guy on their roster to kind of fill that 14th mandatory spot if they were to make a trade and do something along those lines. But I also just think with how their salary cap is looking moving forward, it's just really good to have somebody that you kind of trust, that you could say, hey, this is like another depth piece wing that we like and what we developed. Hey, let's bring him on a deal to kind of fill out our roster in 27, 28.
He's got size. He rebounded very well. Like the 3-ball, I want to see more of it because it was such an outlier last year with the Pacers. Like he just shot the ball so well that like, was it a fluke? Could he do it again? What could he do with Tyrese Halliburton? That's always the magical question. Halliburton could probably get the best out of me on the court, let alone Kobe Brown. So I'm really excited to see more. I would have been rooting for him from afar if he signed anywhere else, just like Micah Potter. Shout out to Micah Potter with the Portland Trailblazers. Very hopeful that he'll have an opportunity. But for Kobe Brown to return, I just felt like in an offseason that had been maybe not quite what we wanted. It's not to say that this makes or breaks the offseason, but it's a nice, icing on top type of thing. But the sprinkles on it.
Yeah, let me ask you this because we've had conversations about 2-way players before, but is Kobe Brown now the best 2-way player in the NBA?
I think so. The Pacers just have this history of Quentin Jackson. Hey, awesome. I really stand by that. I thought he was the best 2-way player last year. Now you look at Kobe Brown, he's got to be probably the most experienced, maybe. I would say at least someone in terms of production from last year. If you just took what he did after the trade deadline, I think he was probably more productive than any other 2-way player so far who's on a 2-way right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say that a guy that was on a standard contract that is going to a 2-way just because of roster spots and kind of where he's at in his development. Like, sure, if he continues this up, who says he's not? I mean, he clearly was good enough last year to play.
He was.
And I know they were trying to lose games, but still, sure. I think he had a pretty bad plus minus when he was on the floor, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
but
the whole team did. I mean, the team were terrible last year. Sure,
he was
maybe not every single player, but
no, I'm saying like he was like the worst in the last bit of the stretch there, Fox, is what I'm getting at. I didn't want to be too mean to the guy because I like Kobe Brown and I thought he developed, and I know a lot of fans liked him. But I do think it's a good story. I think it's interesting. Rick Carlisle didn't say too much about him on the broadcast, but he just kind of said, it's kind of nice we got him back on a two-way, and we'll go from there. But I do think it's a good time to try to pivot and go into a little bit of summer league. We've seen 2 games. We saw them beat the Cavaliers in a pretty convincing fashion. I mean, it got closer towards the end, as a lot of summer league games do. But then on the flip side of things, they play Philadelphia the next game, and they get down by 24 points in the second half. And they chip away. They end up forcing overtime after a really valiant effort there in the second half, and then completely just ran out of gas heading into that overtime and weren't able to score any points. So from both games, I guess we're going to kind of go back and forth and maybe share some takeaways. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I guess we could go with, if you want to start from just game 1 and work our way back, or just
we can just talk. I mean, whatever you want to do. I'm cool with whatever.
Let's just do this. Let's do Braden Smith. Let's say first game struggled a little bit. I think it was like the classic, like, hey, this is better competition at this point, to an extent. Shot 1 of 8 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. He did have 8 rebounds, which is always great to see from a guard, especially one that everyone was like, he's too small. He's so small. 8 rebounds, game 1. But I think the thing that stood out the most was 4 assists, 4 turnovers. That's not what you want to see in terms of college's all-time assist leader and someone who could protect the rock. So in my opinion, had like the first game jitters. He mentioned he was a little bit nervous, before tip-off, and then settled in. But I thought game 2 really, looked the part, looked like one of the better players on the court. In specific, 16 points, 5 assists to just 1 turnover. That's really what you want to see. And was cool, calm, and collected down the stretch. Hit 2 big free throws to be able to force overtime. That, to me, everything that you want to see in your third-string point guard, leading the summer league team.
Yeah, you can even say 4-string point guard if that's what he's really going to be too, right? So honestly, you could tell, and here's the thing I think people forget, you have to look at who's on the floor with him at number 1. You got Lipsy out there playing in the backcourt with him. It's pretty small. Taylor Peters playing the 3 with the starting 5. Yes. You got Jaylen Slawson, the only athletic, defensive-minded big out there at the 4. And then you got, Rank Mast at the 5, who is a good, stretch shooter, big from the Netherlands. We've talked about him a little bit on this podcast, not a whole lot, but I think that he's just more of an offensive-minded player. So you're going out there with a team that's not super, defensive-minded, number 1, and then number 2, you're throwing the fact that these guys really haven't played together ever. And it's just all right, throw them to the Wolves, figure this out, and go out there and try to run something. And they're professionals. They know how to play basketball, don't get me wrong, but it's still not easy. So I just think that, for Braden Smith, this being his first NBA action against the Cavaliers, it wasn't perfect, but I really liked the way that he took over in that second game against Philadelphia. Didn't make his first basket until the end of the third quarter. And you're like, okay, and clearly just trying to not step on toes, play the part. And then they were just you initiate the offense. And that's what he did in that fourth quarter. He took over Foch. I mean, the fact that he had 16 points overall and didn't score his first basket until the end of the third. He might have got to the free throw line before that, but still 6-7 from the free throw line. Did a really good job at making tough shots in tough moments. There was that little sideline, or that little baseline fadeaway jumper, that very, McConnell-esque. And people are they said they couldn't be the same guy. It's yeah, well, he can be probably. So I honestly just thought his catch and shoot 3 was really good. He had a couple nice drives, especially against Rodgers, who was not a great defender for Philadelphia. Rodgers hit a big 3 to go up, I think it was 4 points late in the game. And he's hitting little 3-point sign celebration to Jaylen Brown and the Dembona sitting there sideline. I'm like, all right, man, this guy's feeling himself right now. And then Slawson came down and got fouled and hit 2 free throws right after that. But no, it was one of those things where you just saw him. You can kind of work his magic. And there was probably 4 or 5 that I remember from just seeing the game, kind of in a condensed version, where he had potential assist. Had some really nice setups to Mast that didn't end up coming with a made shot, but because Mast didn't have as good of a second game as in the first game. But I just thought Braden Smith looked much, much more calm and collected out there in the second game, and it kind of gave me okay, this guy's gonna be all right. Nobody's asking to be anything special, but I think for a guy that's gonna be playing on a 2-way contract, he's a much, much better point guard and orchestrator than Cam Jones ever was.
By far. I mean, this is what Summer League is about. This is the like, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, how many fouls you rack up, anything like that. I mean, I know it reminds me of like Isaiah Jackson having some of those games where you have like 7 or 8 fouls, things that can't even happen in a real NBA game. But like, look around the league, Darius Acuff is incredibly struggling right now. Like, really, really shooting the ball very poorly. So, like, give these players some time. Keaton Wagler had a terrible first game. So I just feel like you can't write someone off after the first game. I saw the people who weren't a big fan of Braden Smith kind of hating on after that first game against the Cavaliers. Like, this is the guy we traded up for, blah, blah, blah. Give him time. None of this even matters. None of this even matters right now, except for a couple players who maybe their jobs might be on the line, or those. And I don't think Braden Smith's one of them. But I do want to touch on someone who maybe is in that category a little bit, and that's Jaylen Slawson. I think we saw the good and the bad, another type of situation where game 1 against the Cavaliers, against the Cavaliers, struggled. 4 of 15 from the field, in my opinion, felt like he was someone who had a good amount of NBA experience, played 13 games with the Pacers last year, but he did have, defensively looked solid. 5 blocks, looked springy. I had 6 boards, 5 assists, so did a little bit of all that. So I felt like, all right, you know what, offensively, a little bit discouraged. Defensively, kind of picking up where he left off last year. He had some games last year where he had 3 or more blocks or 3 or more steals. So good to see those defensive capabilities. Game 2 really looked head and shoulders above Summer League talent and looked like he belonged. And in that game, 26 points on 8 of 16 shooting. Also had 5 boards, got to the free throw line 7 times, made 6 of them. Strong performance from Jaylen Slawson.
Yeah, I think with Slawson, like, for me anyway, like, we saw what he could do last year in a limited role as kind of like, oh, maybe he's a 5th starter on this team and he's out there defending somebody. He is kind of like being asked to be the offensive and defensive engine for this Summer League team, and that's just not really who Jaylen Slawson is. And I'm not trying to say that with a negative way, but like, he went 2 of 9 from 3 in the first game and then 1 of 6 from 3 the next game. So that's 3 of 15 from 3. Like, he's not a 3-point shooter. We saw him driving to the basket a lot more in that second game, which I thought was really impressive. I know Caitlin Cooper was tweeting about it as well, saying like the way that he's driving to the basket is really impressive. He was doing like the high gather, like trying to like bring it back over the defender, and it was causing fouls. I thought he had a really nice lob dunk from Taylor Peter in transition, and then I thought Mast hit him on a beautiful backdoor cut as well. When he was, and it was in the beginning of the first, it was end of the first quarter, he had a really nice hard backdoor cut, and Mast hit him with a beautiful bounce pass, and he finished that one. So I just think that he's a really smart player. It's going to be hard to, we're going to talk about this probably at the end here, but it's going to be hard for the Pacers to be like, this guy's not deserving of a 2-way spot, because he looks like an NBA body that could be on the end of the roster. Like, I'm not saying he's a great player or anything like that, because I don't think he is. He's not efficient enough, and he really can't handle the ball too much, but solid rebounder, solid defender. He's just a very average player. He's average all the way around. And honestly, when asked to play in a different role, I think he'll be better. But even in this instance, he's like, he's still putting up a pretty solid game. I think he went 8 of 10, or 8 of 16, excuse me.
8 of 16, yep.
8 of 16 against Philadelphia. And like I mentioned earlier, like, that's a pretty big team, and the Pacers are not playing a very big lineup. So for him to be like the only athletic big out there to like have to worry about that and not getting into foul trouble, which I think is very important. Like you mentioned the Isaiah Jackson thing, like it'd be easy for Slawson to pick up 7-8 fouls in these kind of games because of what they're asking him to do. But no, he's staying disciplined. I like what he's doing pretty well, and definitely a much better showing in the second game than the first game. But I also think that you can only do so much as a team when you're asking him to kind of generate so much. Like if Braden Smith had played as well as he did in that fourth quarter throughout the entirety of the game, maybe the Pacers end up beating the 76ers. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I've always wanted a Summer League championship, but I just don't know when it'll be in the cards. Maybe one day. But for Slawson, I mean, this is someone that last year we saw him shine at times. I mean, I'm looking at it last year. He played 13 games for the Pacers, scored double digits, 5 of those games. Some of them he had, 7 or more rebounds in 3 or 4 games. He, obviously, I mentioned it, steal-wise, had quite a few games at 3 or more steals, quite a few games at 3 or more blocks. I felt like for a two-way type of situation, I do feel like he is a definite two-way talent. Can't say that he's a standard NBA contract type of guy, but I feel like if you're telling me on a two-way, him, Kobe Brown, Braden Smith, like that's a good group, but there's also some other players that might have something to say about it, which, like we said, we'll get into. But was there anyone else that really stood out to you? Two-way, summer league wise.
Yeah, summer league wise, yeah, I definitely think, Yuki Kawamura deserves a lot of praise.
He's been fun to watch.
Rick Carlisle had a lot to say about him too on the broadcast. I don't have the quotes up in front of me, but I did write about that on SI. And, basically just the best way to put it is like lightning in a bottle is how I described him on one of my articles. And just said, if you ever wonder what that looks like, just watch him play. Like he just instantly jumps into the game and is going full force, and he changes the game. Like the Pacers were down 24 points. It was 71-47 in that third quarter, and they cut it to 13 by the end of the third. And that was when he came into the game. People have said, "Oh, he's looked better than Braden Smith." Well, you got to realize he's been in the NBA for the last couple of years. He played with Memphis for a little bit and with Chicago. So this is a guy fighting for his life. He's 5'7", and look, as much as he brings to the table, like guys can still easily just score over him because he's small. But when you hit step back threes, when you get out there and you get to the free throw line, when you have 3 rebounds and 3 assists at that height, it's really darn impressive. And for a team that lost the game by 7 and was down by 24 points, for him to finish the game as a +4, which was the highest of anybody on the court in terms of a plus minus, that shows you like, yeah, he has been better than Braden Smith. And so I just think that he's one of those guys that I don't really know where he belongs in the league, because it does feel like he's probably a two-way guy somewhere. Like I think he's worthy of that. I've seen some fans say, I'd love to see him on a two-way for the Pacers. I'm like, all right, let's just make this like 6 or 7 guys competing for two ways. But no, I've just been really impressed with him, and I think other than him, I think Rank Mast deserves a lot of attention as well in terms of what he's been able to do. Once again, defensively, not the greatest, but I do like that he's a solid rebounder. Got double digits both games, and I thought he was the standout from game 1. Game 2,
I agree.
Kind of slid under the radar a little bit, was the 5th highest scorer, but just the pick and roll defense with him and Braden Smith, that's not going to work too well. But I like what he brought to the table.
Yeah, for Rank in game 1 against Cleveland, I mean, 16 points, 11 boards, 6 of 12 shooting, but 5 of 6 inside the arc. So I do feel like there was things to like for Rank and for Yuki. It's like it's hard. Their pathway on the Pacers is, you don't want to say impossible or near impossible, but it's a long shot. But you want to see these guys continue to put on the best audition that they possibly can. Maybe they stick with the Pacers G League team. Who knows? You never know. Maybe they end up somewhere else. That would be awesome. But these are the times where, like, I guess Braden Smith probably plays in each summer league game. Maybe I'm not entirely sure.
I hope he does.
But yeah, I want to see more. Like we're definitely not at a point where it's like shut it down, whatever. So usually we've had that in the past, whether it is some veterans that maybe are on standard contracts where they play a game or two. We don't have that this year. Like there is no standard contract NBA, player on the Pacers that is playing in summer league, which is a little bit uncharted territory compared to the last few years where we talked offline, where it was Jarris and Shepard, or in years past, Mathurin and Nembhard or Isaiah Jackson. Furphy. Those were guys that were playing in summer league for at least a little bit. So right now it's really like who's gonna snag these 3 two-way spots, and I feel like this is going to be the competition that's heating up. And the hard part is not all 5 guys are out there right now on those two-way contracts. Obviously, Ethan Thompson not with the team right now, playing FIBA basketball. I was looking up some of his stats, averaging 15.5 points for Puerto Rico. Dropped 17 recently on 7 of 13 shooting against the Bahamas. So he's someone that I would have liked to have seen with this team in summer league. So it's more of like a direct type of competition, but at least he is still getting after it.
Yeah, I think if you had Ethan Thompson on this team, he clearly starts for Lipsy, and Lipsy goes to the bench and kind of figure things out there. Maybe Yuki's not on the team if you if you have Ethan Thompson, which I think would be a little bit of a bummer for a lot of these players. But and honestly, like, did you see how excited Pascal was on the sideline there, watching Yuki play? Him and Jay Huff and Obi, they're going nuts. Like everybody in the Pacers organization just loves Yuki. They just brings that positive energy. But
how could you not?
Yeah, I just with Ethan Thompson, like he's so good, man. For a two-way guy, right? Like every time I watch him play, like I understand, like sure, there was times last year on the court for the Pacers, like he just was out there, like not doing a whole lot, but man, when I watch him play for Puerto Rico and things like that, like he was getting his, butt handed to him trying to guard Andrew Nembhard. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the next game he plays some lesser talent. It's like, well, this guy's pretty good. So it's really hard, man. Like it's really hard to figure out what the Pacers really need with these two-way spots because I will say through the first 2 games of Summer League, Taylor Peter just looks like a guy. And
I agree with that. Couldn't agree more.
I honestly, like, if we're going to, I think maybe the best way to do it is rank the 5 in terms of how we think they deserve to be on the two-way deal. I think right now, you got to say Taylor Peter is the first one that probably should be cut from the
100%.
5. I don't really know what he's ever going to bring you in terms of, like, can this guy handle the ball? Like, people were so excited last year about, could he be somebody that's an emergency point guard? Well, clearly not good enough. So, while I like him as a player, as a person, definitely a role player, and you can find a lot of players that do what he does, but better. And to me, he's someone that doesn't deserve to be on a two-way deal with the Pacers, with who they have in consideration. And I'll let you talk about Peter a little bit because I don't want to hog him. I know you're the president of the Taylor Peter fan
Well,
club.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've been called the president of the Taylor Peter fan club before. I might be stepping down from office right now. I just think that right now someone might need to take the reins. I just feel like this is a competition. I mean, when do you really have like 5 guys fighting for 3 spots? I feel like Taylor Peter, he was a good story. Like he lived a dream. I mean, this is the 6th man at Liberty heard his name on draft night and
Yeah.
got to play, and quite a few games last year for the Pacers, but hasn't really shot the 3 ball well so far. I mean, that most recent game against Philly, he was 0 for 3 from 3, just 6 points, nothing to really write home about. So
Mm-hmm.
for Taylor Peter, I definitely agree with you. You could probably you don't want to cancel him out right now. There's a few games to go, but I think he has the most uphill battle of the group.
Okay, so now this is where it gets tough because I
Yeah.
think the next 4 are pretty interesting to talk about because you can make the case, well, what has Braden Smith done to earn one?
I know.
But at the same point, 38th overall pick, teams were interested in him. So he clearly went way higher than Taylor Peter ever did,
Yes.
and some of these other players. So I think, honestly, like I feel like Braden and Kobe are locks to be on the two-way deals. I'd be shocked if they're not. So some people have said, and we've talked about it too, like putting somebody on a standard contract. There's pros and cons to doing that. It's nice to have 15 players. It's nice to make these tough decisions less difficult if you can do that. But at the same time, you're paying these guys more money is going to count against you more. And from a tax perspective, so is the team really eager to pay all this right now? Probably not. So I would say for me, at least, we kind of work our way backwards. Since we were at 5, let's go back to like 1, 2. I would say Braden Smith is 1 and
Yes.
Kobe Brown's 2. That's how I view it.
Absolutely. So look, if Braden Smith played terribly in all these games, he'd still be safe because it would then look really bad if you traded up to 38 and then cut the person that you traded up for, cut, the hometown kid at a
Yeah.
position of need who's familiar with the front office. Like, there's a lot of different stuff. We don't need to lean into he's familiar with Chad Buchanan's family. We don't need to do that. But it's just like, it would look like a big mistake, and it's something that's very uncommon to do is to cut a player that was drafted in the 30s, before summer league even, ends or before the regular season even begins is how I'd put it. So Braden Smith is the lock based on the draft spot, the trade, all that. Next, Kobe Brown. Why would given the situation of him being on the team and you just signed him, that's what kind of like made everything a lot more complicated, but in a good way because he's got game and you want to see this through. And this is like the lowest risk possible bringing him back on a 2-way contract. So Braden Smith, Kobe Brown, I got him in the same order that you do.
All right, so this is the $1 million question. Is it Jaylen Slawson or Ethan Thompson for that final two-way spot?
I think it's Jaylen Slawson. So,
Yeah.
For Ethan Thompson, he got some good experience with the team, was on the team longer, struggled shooting the ball, shot sub 40% last year, did bring some good things to the table. He shouldn't be penalized because he's playing in FIBA and not with the team, but I just feel like for Slawson, he's someone who, I don't know, Pacers at least, like he's in restricted free agency. I don't see him getting an offer by any means, but I don't know, it was a very strong performance in game 2, dropping 26 points. I just feel like I don't know, maybe I'm just more of a Slawson guy, compared to you being more of a Thompson guy, but I believe in Jaylen Slawson. Not to say that he'll be a standard contract guy, but I believe in him in being a strong two-way player in this league.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that because I think, like, for me, like, it's just hard to, like, make this opinion, so, like, I wouldn't feel confident with this opinion if I were to be like, "I think Ethan Thompson should be in there over Jaylen Slawson," or vice versa. I think that they're so drastically different of players, and I think when I'm trying to look at the balance of the roster, right, like, who makes the most sense, Facci, for this team to bring back in terms of what we have already, because if you're looking at Jaylen Slawson, like, that's kind of the Johnny Furphy rule. Like, it's like, do you really want to invest in a guy that's probably more like a Johnny Furphy role? But if you were to like, hey, who can we promote next? Who makes more sense for this team? Is it Ethan Thompson as like a guy that could be like guard depth if you lose a Ben Shepherd? I think that probably makes more sense. And is Kobe Brown kind of more of your like, hey, if we lose Jarris, this is kind of our insurance for him. Where Jaylen Slawson, to me, it's like I just don't really see the path for him to kind of get on with the Pacers somewhere. Now, here's what I'll say: I think Jaylen Slawson could go somewhere else and get a two-way deal and make more sense,
I
right?
do believe that.
And maybe he's more of an NBA player than Ethan Thompson is too, just because of his size and defensive abilities. And so that's why I think it makes more sense to lean that way. So yeah, like I'm just torn because I believe in Ethan Thompson as a player, and I know him and Quentin Jackson like grew up playing together. Like Q talked about that a little bit. But I would agree with you. I think that if you were to ask me who I would rank, I would rank Jaylen Slawson above Ethan Thompson in terms of where I think the Pacers probably lean. I'm just trying to make the case for Thompson at all. Like who is he position wise playing behind? Shepard, Oubre, Neesmith, Nimhard, Jackson. So you got 5 ahead of him. Who's Slawson playing behind? Furphy? Kind of in that spot. That's about it. Like, because he's not a top and level player.
No.
Maybe a little bit of Jarris, but not really. So I think there's more of a path potentially. I think you can make the case like who makes more sense, Kobe Brown or Jaylen Slawson for the standard roster spot. That's more debatable because of
Yeah.
them kind of being in the same spot positionally.
No, it is, and I just man, there would have been a scenario that if it worked out, I would have been cool with Kobe Brown being on a standard contract because I just felt like I liked what I saw last year, but I do think that, like, this is a strong battle for those two-way spots, and if you're telling me that the group is Braden Smith, Kobe Brown, Jaylen Slawson, like, I feel good about that. I really do. Like, I don't know how high each of their NBA ceilings is, but to me, those feel like NBA players. And I feel like in the past, that has not always been the case with the Pacers, is they have had players that just feel like these are just some guys drafted in the 50s that hope to kinda maybe be able to cling to their two-way spot, and I feel like the bar has been raised on the two-way spots for the Pacers, and it just means that, like, this team is pretty deep. I really do feel like it's a deep team. Maybe it's not, like, across the board, like, strong, but I feel like from a two-way spot, like I said, like, Braden Smith could definitely be an NBA player. Kobe Brown could definitely be an NBA player, and then Jalen Slawson is the, like, if you squint your eyes, on the right day, maybe you could see it.
Yeah, I would say from like the top 10 for the Pacers, and I'm not really including, no offense, I'm not including Jay Huff in this conversation. Uh, I'll include Shepard and Walker in this conversation for your top 10. I think you feel pretty good. Like that's playoff,
Yep.
battled guys that can make sense for your team. And then you mean to tell me the back 8 or 9 of the roster are like, okay, like depth pieces or like whatever. Like it's not like it's the end of the world to sit here and say we're pretty deep. Like I think that the fact that you're going to bring Kobe Brown into the end of the training camp with him on a two-way deal, like that's a guy that was on a standard contract last year. So I think it does speak to the levels of depth that they have. But at the same time, could they improve their depth? Of course, any team
Obviously.
can.
No
You
doubt.
can always get better. But I think that they're pretty set with what they have, and I would really be shocked if they make a another move before the season starts. But I'm not going to rule it out because I was not expecting the Kobe Brown signing, and I was not
No,
expecting the Larry Nance move. So I don't know.
not at all.
I'm keeping my eyes open, but I'm not looking too excited about anything.
No, I think this is the group. I think if they wanna fill that last roster spot, it very well might be from within. So I do think that fans that are still wondering, the Pacers in the Trey Murphy sweepstakes. I do think that has ended. Maybe it's revisited.
Not for some fans.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
As soon as they brought Kobe Bryant on a 2-way deal, I kept seeing the Windhorse memes of, now why would they do that? I'm like, people, relax.
People are like, oh, the Pacers, they're getting the salary in place, like Larry Nance now on a minimum. Like they're looking at this. It's like, all right, take the tinfoil off your head right now. I just don't think that there's like a master move being planned right now. So I think for the Pacers, yeah, you're like, all right, strong 2-way group. You never know when you might need some of these players. Someone could step up. Pacers have been in spots before, like Quentin Jackson is clearly someone that they value that was on a 2-way with them that. When push came to shove, they elected to keep him. So sometimes these 2-way players can rise to being more than just 2-way guys.
All right, Facci, you see this right here? Kind of, maybe a little bit.
I see someone, but this is Indiana. That's what I see. Reggie Miller?
Yeah, it's a book.
Nice.
It's a book written by Eric Bond after the Pacers NBA Finals run. I haven't had a chance to read it all the way through, but he gifted it to me and gave it to me at a game last year, and I was going to bring it up on the podcast a while ago, and I forgot, but he's got pictures in here of everything, and I don't know if he's selling them or not, but I think if fans want to kind of relive that, they should try to reach out to him because I think everybody's excited for Tyrese Haliburton to come back, and we're going to talk more about Tyrese on the next episode, so a little bit of a teaser there for you because we got some updates on Tyrese Haliburton. Some from Rick Carlisle, and then one not so update from Chris Haynes as well. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. But anything else you want to say before we sign off here from our summer league discussion from the first 2 games?
No, I would just say, hey, look, it's always good to have Pacer basketball back. Summer league is usually, partly Pacer basketball, but it gets the juices flowing. It's enough to just say, all right, you know what? Hey, basketball is back in some way, shape, or form. Braden Smith, it's been fun to watch. I can't wait to see what's next. Want to continue to watch him grow.
Yeah, and some of these other players that have not got a chance to play, like the last 5 that have not been part of the rotation, I'm excited to see some of them. Jalen Worley, his grandfather played with Wilt Chamberlain. That's one of the ones we haven't seen yet from Gonzaga. I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets an opportunity. And Kawhi Reeves Jr., somebody else I'm surprised has not got a chance to play because I like his 2-way ability and wing position. So a lot of the G League guys are getting some run, make some sense. Gabe McLaughlin's still shooting the ball every time he touches it. It's what he does best, and not shooting it very well. So nothing changes, no matter where he's at, whether it's in the NBA or in the summer league. That is Gabe McLaughlin. So with that being said, Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode. You can follow 5J_FACCI. I'm an Alex Golden NBA, and we are at PacersPod STP. And Facci, if you're up in the Pacers, can continue to just keep developing these young players over the next couple of days. Hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.